Greetings to you, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be tackling another heated subject, but unlike the previous video I made that could be a bit divisive, this one I feel like a lot, if not all gamers, can get behind and support, and that is the subject of gaming patents, as well as why Warframe has come to save the day once again, especially with their new update coming out in March. Let's get into it. I am your host, Vault Zero. I make daily Warframe content. I'm going to start this video out by talking about a different game for just a minute. I'm going to take you to strip down memory lane. Have any of you guys ever heard of Shadow of War, Middle-earth, or Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor? They are both Lord of the Rings type games. Shadow of Mordor, Middle-earth, launched in 2014, and the sequel, Shadow of War, launched in 2017. And they introduced one of the greatest, in my opinion, game mechanics that has been introduced in gaming in I don't know how long, and that was the patented Nemesis system. And I'm going to, for those of you unaware of how it works, and maybe you hadn't played the game, if so, you did yourself a disservice, and I highly recommend checking out either one of those games. Shadow of War is still a fantastic game to play. I highly recommend it. But this video is about Warframe, and to put it into context, I'm going to talk about the Nemesis system and how they have modified it. But to lay the groundwork for that, let's get into how the original Nemesis system worked. So in Shadow of Mordor, basically what would happen was you had tribes of orcs, and you would have a hierarchy of orcs. They would go from the grunts all the way up to the overlords. And should you be killed by even the lowest ranking of orcs, what would happen was they would level up. They would level up in strength and power and abilities. They would gain new resistances and new strengths. They would get new armors. They would move up the chain of command, and they could move all the way up from lowly orc all the way over to overlord, depending on how you tackled the tribe and who you killed and your decisions you made. They had rivals that could come and kill them in the middle of a conflict with you. They had assassination attempts that could happen to them. They had allies who could come and reinforce them in battle. They had unique personalities. The way they greeted you when they saw you, some had fears of you, some weren't afraid of you at all. It was an amazing system, and what really frustrates me is WB took this amazing idea and patented it. And what really makes me mad is their latest title launched in 2017. So tell me why, if anyone out there in the crowd can explain to me why WB finally filed for a patent in 2021 for the Nemesis system. That is egregious, and that is a slap in the face to the gaming community. However, this is where Warframe comes in. Warframe became the first game to really challenge the patent, the stranglehold, more specifically, that WB has on this incredible game mechanic. In 2016, Warframe launched the War Within, which had a really interesting quest line, really fun. It gave you a lot of insight into the Kuva, which was the life's blood of the orc, and it granted them the immortality, as well as what it introduced was our first brand new look at Digital Extreme's version of the adversary system. And what it would do is you have opportunities to summon what are known as Kuva Liches. These are extremely similar to the Nemesis system from the WB system. Basically, what you have to do is you have to take out what is known as a Kuva larvaling, and then you get the option of, okay, do I want to engage with this boss fight? Do I want to summon this Kuva Lich? Because it'll show you what kind of weapon will be available if you defeat it, and things of that nature. And then if you choose, say, yeah, I'm gonna summon the Lich, it's going to have its own unique personality. It's going to hunt you through the system. It's going to steal your resources if you're in its territory. and it has some interesting mechanics in fights. It can pick you up and throw you. It'll have unique abilities, and it's a series of fights that you can't just take it down in one fight. It's a segmented fight where you have to engage it multiple times in different ways to take them down. Now, in Warframe, we're so overpowered that a lot of people can take their Kubu Liches down pretty easily. You still can't kill them in one instance, but oftentimes you can fight them 3, 4 times and then eliminate them. But you have to go through a large rigmarole of summoning them and figuring out how you have to defeat them, because each one has different weaknesses and different strengths. Whichever frame you use to actually summon the Lich is going to play into its resistances, as well as what kind of damage it's going to deal. So you have to take that into account when summoning the Lich. And I think that's a really interesting take on the adversary system. One thing that impresses me is Warframe has, or Digital Extremes really, has a tendency at times to introduce new mechanics that I find interesting personally, and they'll kind of move on from them quickly with no support, because since Digital Extremes kind of has, they're a business, so they kind of have to pick and choose what works, what doesn't. And oftentimes they'll introduce things, and like I said, people won't absolutely love it, so they'll be like, all right, you know what, scrap it, we're going to move on. But that's not the case with the adversary system they introduced. 5 years later, after the War Within in 2021, they released the Sisters of Parvos update, which added the Corpus version of the adversaries, and I think an even cooler version. I actually myself haven't got one yet. That's actually my goal for the week, to summon my first Sister of Parvos. They get really cool mechanical hounds that come with them that are modular, that you can build piece by piece. Which mods that come with them I've heard are incredible. They also have ephemeras. They are just like the Kuva Grenier, or Kuva Liches, excuse me, in that they are full of personality and quirks, and they have interesting fight mechanics. Now, this whole video is not about the past. You guys want to hear about the future and how Warframe is changing the game, and it is once again saving the day. Like we have established, patents suck. I think the ability to patent any game mechanic should not be illegal. And I think a lot of people would agree with that sentiment. I don't understand why they came up with this great game mechanic in the Nemesis system, sat on it, patented it, said, this is great, but nobody else can use it. Knowing good and well, they're not going to make another title. I mean, it's been, what, 8 years almost since we've seen another Shadow of Earth, Shadow of Mordor, Middle Earth story. It's just not going to happen, I don't think. But here in March, Tekrot Encore, we are getting the infested versions of the adversaries in Warframe, and they're changing up the formula in a lot of ways. And I think it really helps set the standards for what gaming should be. Digital Extremes is always going out and creating content that they know the fans want, and they know the fans are going to absolutely lose their minds over. And more game developers should think that way. They should have that mindset. But we're going to dive into some of the new changes coming with the Tekrot Encore adversary system. But before we do that, if you guys have made it this far and you're enjoying the video, make sure you smash that like button. Perhaps even sub to the channel. We would love to have you here. Like I said, I make daily Warframe content. So the first new change is that these infested are actually going to have a little bit more personality, which I didn't really think was possible. But basically, they are going to be singers from 1999 in the Warframe universe, from the hit boy band Online, and I think that's a huge deal. I think that's incredible. I, much like anyone else, am a fan of boy bands, and I, of course, am a fan of any of the banger music that Digital Extremes puts out. But they are going to be mutated and infested based on which frame you actually encounter the band member on or with. The element that you are using with your frame will determine the mutations that band member receives. then you'll have to run additional missions to get the antivirus mods, and they're going to be taking the place of the Requiem mods. And of course, your final encounter with the infested lich will culminate in a capital ship battle in Railjack. I highly recommend, if you can do it solo. I've only done 2 Kuva liches, and the culmination of these fights is really cool because you have to infiltrate their capital ship, make it to the heart of the ship, and then take them down. You get kind of a really cool cutscene, them getting introduced, as well as you get a cutscene of you taking them down, of sorts. And it, for me especially, like my Kubelich stuck around for a while. He, I had super bad luck fighting him. I had super bad luck entire time grinding. I failed to take him down a couple times, so he stuck around a lot longer than I felt was necessary. So when I finally got to take him down, it was really satisfying. The only thing that took away from that was that I ran it with a group, and if you run it with a group who's also hunting their liches, it'll just kind of like rapid fire the cutscenes back to back to back. So it just kind of detracted a little bit from the experience. So I highly recommend doing it solo if you're able to do that. I'm also just looking at the weapons that you get from the Kuva liches for the first time. I have the list in front of me, and I've got to say, if you guys aren't aware what the weapons are, it's going to be pretty exciting stuff. I myself am excited. I think the most exciting weapon on the list is Sporothrix. That weapon is a hell of a grind to get, at least for some people. I've actually ground it up twice. I didn't know how good it was, so I sold both sets that I had. Currently, I'm trying to farm it the third time to actually build it for myself because I know how overpowered it is. But it looks like we also have the Tysus secondary, as well as the Cost Assist, and even the Meyer sword. And this is all exciting stuff because if you guys have taken a look at any of the videos online about the weapons that both the Sisters of Phormos as well as the Kuva liches have, they are renowned in Warframe for being some of the very best weapons in the game. So that is super exciting to get really good weapons already remade into even better weapons. And also some more good news, the infested, which I didn't know this was going to be a possibility, the infested liches will also be able to be converted into Railjack crew members, and that is, I think, a huge W on Digital Extreme's part. The main thing I wanted to say is I feel that a new era of gaming is upon us, and Warframe is really leading the charge, because this game mechanic, the Nemesis system, or the adversary system, whichever one you want to call it, is such a great mechanic. There's something about having your personal enemy adversary with its own unique attitude and its own unique interactions with you to hunt down and engage with, especially when you consider that a lot of the enemies in Warframe, there are some memorable characters, don't get me wrong, but typically what you're going to be encountering are just hordes of enemies. So like I said, to encounter those adversaries, the ones that are unique, is really something that is truly special when you get to an encounter. And Warframe should be looked at as the gold standard, as the example for other games to follow in their footsteps, because like I said, patents should not exist in the gaming sphere. Gaming is all about innovation and building on ideas that other developers have made. So I'm really happy to see Warframe once again saving the day, leading the charge, and doing what is best for the player and giving us things that they know that are going to blow our minds. But guys, that is going to be it for me. That's all I have for you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Your viewership is more than enough for me. I will catch you guys in the stars.